Welcome to the Fairmont Hotel. As you arrive in our entrance hall, please take the time to appreciate your surroundings, the magnificent lobby, and its grand ambiance. Know that the classic Carrara marble floor upon which you stand is the original and dates back to before the Great Fire and Earthquake of 1906. Let your eyes follow the Corinthian columns to the ceiling, where you will see the grand chandelier and the beautiful ornamental embellishments painstakingly created by European artisans. I'm Tom Wolfe, Director of Heritage for the Fairmont, and I'll be your guide today. Before we begin, we ask that you observe a few simple rules of etiquette which will help enhance your experience today. Please be aware of our other guests and visitors. Avoid flash photography, and kindly note that our restaurants and meeting rooms are accessible only to dining guests and people attending functions. Your starting point will be the base of the grand staircase, near the pillar closest to the lobby. You are now standing at the only pillar that is still made of marble, or so we are told. Place your hand on it and see if it indeed feels cooler. When the Great Fire took place, the Fairmont, although standing proudly, suffered severe interior damage from the flames and subsequent structural stress caused by the excess water used to extinguish the flames. The original design, with its grand staircase, was requested by the Fair sisters, Tessie and Bertie, when they gave their plans to the architects, the Reed brothers from Canada. The land upon which the Fairmont Hotel stands was actually destined to be a private home for Mr. James Graham Fair and his family. Mr. Fair's fortune had come from his discovery of silver in Nevada. Because of his immense sudden wealth, he became known as Bonanza Jim. Unfortunately, while planning his new residence, he became estranged from his wife and family. Time and ill health intervened, and James Fair was not able to fulfill his wish. He passed away with only a doctor and a nurse at his side. It was the sisters, therefore, who decided to go ahead with building not just an hotel, but the grandest hotel in the West. They were well-traveled and properly educated young ladies who had been to Europe on numerous occasions with their mother, Elizabeth. The grand staircase was a very important part of the design because Tessie Fair wanted there to be a place where ladies could make a dramatic entrance. Look to the top of the stairs and picture women of that time descending the staircase with their beautiful gowns and finery, to be met by their gentlemen waiting at the base of the staircase, while in the background, romantic music wafted through the magnificent romantic lobby. Julia Morgan, the restoration architect who was able to complete the hotel after the devastation of the Great Fire, further enhanced the look of the hotel by adding many decorative features that had a distinctly European style. Miss Morgan had been a graduate of the École des Beaux-Arts in Paris, the most prestigious architectural school in the world. It was Julia Morgan who added all of the beautiful embellishments on the ceiling that you see. Directly across from where you are is the original mailbox of the hotel. While the United States Postal Service has decided that it no longer be used, it is nevertheless lovingly cared for and polished every day. The mail chute still goes all the way up to the 6th floor of the building. To the right of the mailbox, you will see a plaque commemorating the United Nations. The meeting room next to the plaque, known as the Garden Room, is where many strategic meetings took place during the summer of 1945, when the United Nations was being established here in San Francisco. Now, walk past the Garden Room and take your first right. You should be in a long hallway which has a number of photographs on both sides. This is Heritage Hall, and you will find much of interest here. There are photographs of James Graham Fair, as well as his daughters, and many photographs of the Fairmont over the years, including pictures of the damage that took place from the Great Fire. If you look carefully, You will even see the pillar that you were standing next to a short while ago. Feel free to pause this presentation, take your time, and enjoy all of the history and interesting photographs. If you continue to walk straight ahead, keeping slightly to your left, you will pass 3 elevators. Those serve the Tower Building, which was constructed in 1960. Go a bit further and turn right, and you will find yourself at your next stop, the Roof Garden. The Roof Garden dates back to the start of the Fairmont Hotel, which opened in 1907, exactly 1 year after the Great Fire. You will note that I refer to that event as the Great Fire. There's a reason for this. The earthquake itself lasted about a minute. Of course, for those who lived through it, it was a minute that seemed like an hour. Yet the fire that happened immediately afterwards lasted for a week. It took 24 hours to reach the top of Nob Hill after engulfing the rest of the city below. It could not be extinguished because the pipes which contained the water had been broken as a result of the earth moving. In spite of all efforts, the fire made its way up to Nob Hill. You have had a chance to see some of the photographs of the devastation, and no doubt noticed that the Fairmont still was standing on the top of the hill, surrounded by the ruins of the destruction. In fact, the Fairmont was used as the emergency headquarters for the city's government as they planned on how to fight this inferno. It was only when it was seen that the fire would take Nob Hill as well that they moved to another location for safety. As mentioned before, Julia Morgan was able to get the hotel restored and ready for opening exactly 1 year to the day from the Great Fire. Among other things, she designed a terraced garden that cascaded down to Powell Street, with paths, landscaping, and even a children's playground. It is configured a bit differently now, but this is the very spot where people gathered on the opening night party of the Fairmont in 1907 to celebrate the city's recovery. Try to imagine yourself out there on the evening of April 18, 1907. There would be no skyline as we know it today. If you were looking toward the bay, the view would be relatively unobstructed. Looking in the opposite direction, you would be able to see all the way to City Hall. At precisely 9 o'clock, a fireworks display began over City Hall and over the Fairmont, illuminating the city, rising like the phoenix from its ashes. The people on the roof garden, all dressed in their finest clothes, looked around and realized that their city would live again. This is the galvanizing moment in the history of San Francisco and in the history of our great hotel. If you turn and look back at the main building of the hotel, you can see the wrought iron balconies of the main building suites that are there. These suites are still very popular, as there are very few places in San Francisco where you can actually sit outside and still be in your hotel accommodation. At the very top of the hotel, you will see the Fairmont Penthouse. This was built in 1927 by a wealthy local financier as a residence for his family. He made an arrangement with the owners of the Fairmont to build a structure at his own expense, provided they would allow him to live there and pay a modest rent. Over the years, it was used as a residence for the former owner, Mr. Benjamin Swig, the inspiration for Arthur Haley's book, Hotel. Prior to that, Maud Flood of the Flood family lived there during the 1940s and had to be displaced when the United Nations came to town, as it became the temporary residence for then Secretary of State Edward Stettinius. It is a very beautiful place and yet preserves the feeling of a home rather than a hotel suite. It is still popular for use as a wedding venue. It is also available to rent as a sleeping accommodation. If you turn around and face the bay and then look to your right, you will see the Pavilion Room. This was part of the construction that was done when the tower was built. It contains a very unusual chandelier that was a gift from the people of Chinatown to the Fairmont in appreciation for the services they had given, and represents the affinity and friendship between the Chinese community and this wonderful local institution called the Fairmont Hotel. You may enter the hotel again using the door next to the pavilion room, which will lead you to the hallway known as the loggia. Turn right, and as you head back to the lobby, pause to see on your left our herb garden and also the Fairmont's famous honeybees. We produce our own honey, which is used in the restaurants. It is also available for purchase in Cafe Cento, which is on level P, as in parking, via the main elevators. As you continue strolling down the hallway towards the main lobby, on your left side will be a marvelous room called the Cirque Room. Make this your next stop. It is very easy to view through the glass panels. This is a room that was designed by Timothy Pfluger, perhaps the greatest architect of the Art Deco style. Take your time to look at the magnificent bar, which actually had a sluiceway running underneath it, so that cigarettes could be extinguished there and then would be whisked away by the running water. It is said to have been the first bar in San Francisco to open at the end of Prohibition. Note the whimsical murals painted by Esther Bruton and her sisters, who came from an extremely artistic local family. Take time to appreciate the wonderful Art Deco ceiling as well, and the pillars that are mirrored. As you head back toward the lobby, you will see a single elevator on your left. Take that down to level T, the terrace level. Then turn right upon exiting. There are some more photos of the hotel, and notably, pictures of the Fairmont swimming pool, known as the Plunge, where champion swimmers trained, and the Fairmont even had its own swim team. It is now the Tonga Room, created by Ben Swig in the late 1940s. The Tonga is the original tiki room, and although such places became less popular over the years, the Tonga continues to bring people in and is full all the time. As well as being one of the most popular restaurants in the whole city, it has live music after 8 p.m. and a thunder and lightning effect with tropical rain that has even been copied by Safeway for their produce department. If you're planning a visit to the Tonga for dinner, be sure to make a reservation, as it is very popular. Come back up to the lobby again and head back toward the herb garden, taking an immediate left turn. You will find a wall dedicated to Tony Bennett. Mr. Bennett, along with many other artists, performed in the legendary Venetian Room. It is in this historic room that Tony Bennett debuted the song "I Left My Heart in San Francisco" more than 50 years ago. He still includes it in all of his concerts. Although the Venetian Room is no longer a nightclub, it still does have occasional performances by artists and continues to create the wonderful magic that made it an international destination for so many years. Now you are back in the main lobby. Please feel free to walk around and explore the rest of the hotel. Drop into our Laurel Court cocktail lounge for an expertly mixed drink, or a great glass of wine, or have a bite to eat in the restaurant there. There are a number of shops here in the lobby that you may also find interesting. I hope you've enjoyed this brief history of the Fairmont. More information can be found on our website for the Fairmont Hotel San Francisco. On my page, there is also a link to a video project that I did about the Fairmont history, which explains a little more fully our grand heritage. Thank you for spending time with me today, and I hope to see you one day soon again. In the meantime, please enjoy your visit to the Fairmont and have a wonderful day. This is Tom Wolfe, your Fairmont Director of Heritage, saying thanks for tuning in.